as we start off the new year, of course, everybody's saying Happy New Year. And of course, as you would ask many people, what do they want? Many would just say, I just want to be happy. And not knowing really what would actually make them happy. Yet, the interesting thing is Jesus, over 2,000 years ago, told us how to be happy. And so I want to just share with you Jesus' pathway to happiness. Now, you're going to quickly see why what he tells us in the scriptures of how to be happy, why it's been rejected, actually for those 2,000 years as well. But let's kind of dig into it. We're going to go into Matthew, the 4th chapter, and read a little bit before Jesus begins his Sermon on the Mount. And in that, it begins with something called the Beatitudes. But let's read first in Matthew 4, verse 23. And it says, And Jesus is going about in all Galilee, teaching in their synagogues and proclaiming the gospel of the kingdom and healing every kind of disease and every kind of sickness among the people. Now, that would probably make a lot of people happy, don't you think? And the news about him went out into all Syria, and they brought to him all who were ill, taken with various diseases and pains, demoniacs, epileptics, paralytics, and he healed them. And a great multitude followed him from Galilee and Decapolis and Jerusalem and Judea and from beyond the Jordan. So obviously, here is Jesus. He's making a whole bunch of people happy, right? And so what Jesus does next, though, is that he sits them down and he really tells them what is more real or true happiness as we begin the Sermon on the Mount. So as we begin, let's read in chapter 5. He says, And when he saw the multitudes, he went up on the mountain, and after he sat down, his disciples came to him, and opening his mouth, he began to teach them, saying, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the gentle or the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled or satisfied. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the sons of God. And blessed are those who have been persecuted for the sake of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when men cast insults at you and persecute you and say all kinds of evil against you falsely on account of me. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is in heaven is great, for so they persecuted the prophets who were before you. So in this, the word blessed actually means to be in a blissful, joyful state, or happy. Actually, obviously, something a little bit deeper than what we would call happy, because, when you think about happy, it could be fleeting. I'm happy, if I got the job. I'm happy, if, the girl I was asking out said yes, or whatever the case may be. Something that's very, very temporal. And this is much more deeper and longer lasting. But Jesus basically is saying, if you wanted to call it, look at the first beatitude, is that he says, blessed, or you want to say, happy are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So in this, Jesus is basically telling us, if you got healed, but you may get sick again. And of course, eventually these old bodies, they eventually die. And so he was letting us know that all that temporary happiness is great, but now we want to come to lasting happiness. And that is seen in what we call the Beatitudes, and where each one of these 8 Beatitudes start by saying blessed or blissful and joyful are those. Notice that it's also is not blessed, joyful and blissful was, but, or will be, but it's right now. It says, blessed are the poor in spirit. Now, when we're going to go through each and every one of these, and as we look at them, we're going to dive deep into what Jesus really tells us of what it really is required of us to truly be happy or be in that joyful, blissful state. One thing I want to note here is that as you see, the first ends by, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And then the very last one we find in verse 10, also says, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And so what those are like, if you want to call it like bookends of a volume. And so Jesus is what he's describing is the kingdom of heaven. All right? So he's basically saying, if this is what you are, blessed are, again, not was or will be, but this is what you are, he is actually describing from a heart attitude basis, he's saying, this is what the kingdom of heaven really looks like. So as we go through these and we go through each one of these 8 Beatitudes, you can ask yourself, does that describe me? Then if so, then great. That means that, hey, apparently that I'm a part of the kingdom of heaven. But of course, if not, then you might have to question, say something, I need to work on some things in order to be a part of the kingdom of heaven as well. So in 8 statements, very succinct statements, Jesus describes what the kingdom of heaven is to look like in a person's life. And so we're going to be looking at that here in the next few weeks. So hope you'll join me as we go through the Beatitudes and see how happy you really are. Thank you so much.